Hey everybody, and welcome back to FSI DFS. I'm McKinley 412, and today we're looking at this 11 game main slate for what day is it? Tuesday. I think it's Tuesday. Yeah, Monday Night Football was last night. It is Tuesday, so a lot of high profile pitchers going on the slate. We got DeGrom and Cole, Darvish, right? Kershaw. Kershaw's probably like the fifth best pitcher on the slate. It's pretty amazing, but that's the joy of having these larger slates. However, looking at the cheap tier, there's not a whole lot to like. Waldchuk maybe kind of sneaks up to the top, but after that, it's all pretty ugly. So let's dive a little bit deeper into the pitchers here. It's kind of where I have things ranked. Top stack, it's going to be Minnesota. They're super affordable, super cheap. They got a great matchup going up against Bubic. So they're a top team and a cheap team. And they're going to be important because we were probably going to want to be jamming in DeGrom and Garrett Cole in our cash builds. It can be pricey, but there are ways around it. There's not a whole lot of value outside of Minnesota, but there's one guy, Josh Jung from Texas, who's still in price somehow. But yeah, so let's just dive into it. DeGrom, he's going up against the Cubs. I don't have to say anything really more. He's got like a strikeout rate that's like 40%, probably more than 40%, honestly. But that 11.8 price tag still doesn't scare me enough. I think you just have to play him. Let's just look at his game logs just to see the craziness. Yeah, 30, 30, 30, 24, 36. This is just absurd. Absolutely absurd. 8, 9, 10 plus strikeouts every single start. He doesn't walk anybody. Let's look at his hits against 3. It's not earned runs. He's only allowing 3 hits against on average in his starts when he's going 7 innings. That's just absurd. So DeGrom, top notch. Garrett Cole, he's in Fenway. I still think that he's a great play. 10.9K going up against Boston, a Boston team that can struggle quite a bit, as we all know. And really, he's been on a pretty solid form here. Just 5 of his past 6 starts, he's allowed 2 or fewer earned runs. 4 of his past 6, just 1 or fewer earned run. So he's in solid form. His strikeout rate is up. Boston doesn't scare me really as an offense. Throw in DeGrom, throw in Cole. I mean, you got 60 points in your lineup essentially right there, without even touching any of the bats. So I do like that pairing, especially for cash games. Can you get 40, 50, 60 points out of your bats? You should be able to. So especially for cash games, I like that a lot. After them, there is a pretty big gap here. Yu Darvish, 10.6K. I think it's just too pricey for him, especially going up against Seattle, who can be a tricky team at times. Darvish, he has shown that he can struggle, especially in like the first 2 innings. I don't know what it is, but like the first 2 innings for Darvish are just terrible, it seems. And then he just kind of like locks in and he's solid for the rest of the start. So if he can get past those first 2 innings, he could have a solid outing. The upside is there with him, but I think at 10.6K with Garrett Cole, just 300 more, go to Garrett Cole. But that can make Darvish for a nice, intriguing GPP play for sure. I have Kyle Wright above Kershaw. Kyle Wright is 600 cheaper going up against San Francisco. Kyle Wright, I don't know what's going on. It's like he shows flashes of like this guy is incredible, and then he just gets absolutely torched and ruins all of our lineups. Still mad about it against Oakland, going for -5 points. At least everybody else was on the train with me. But he lets up 6 after 2 or fewer runs and a handful of starts prior to that. So he has certainly blow up potential going up against San Francisco, big ballpark, so pitcher's ballpark. So maybe he's got a little bit of upside or some benefit to him there. So yeah, so I do have right there, and then Kershaw going up against Arizona. I don't know, Kershaw. He's just I don't want to be paying 10K for a pitcher, and I said this so many times. I don't want to pay 10K for a pitcher who can get yanked at 75 pitches any given start. Just because especially now, playoffs are coming up in just a couple of weeks. Probably going to be wanting to save his arm as they make another World Series push. So could he get pulled at 70 pitches? Absolutely. Like I could totally see that happening in LA. So I don't want to be paying 10K for him. And that's kind of why he's down at the bottom in this top high salary tier for me. Looking at the mid tier, 2 guys that really stand out. It's Ryan and Montgomery. And then it's kind of a drop off. And then I would go into like Gilbert and Kelly. Or maybe throw Gilbert in there. But still, it's Ryan and Montgomery. Joe Ryan's got probably the better matchup going up against Kansas City. 8.1K, solid strikeout with this guy. You can see kind of in the game logs, he's got 6, 7, 8 strikeout potential. And his strikeout just in general rate strikeout rate in general on the season is fine. Can he blow up at times? Sure. That's why he's 8.1K. But still, I think given the matchup, given everybody else around him, and the the constriction on salary with this slate, I think that he makes for a fine play in that mid tier. Montgomery, he's 300 more, but Montgomery, ever since he came over from the Yankees, has been incredible. I don't know what words to describe. He's not DeGrom by any means. I'm not saying that, but compared to what he was doing in New York, compared to what he's got now in St. Louis, it's been absolutely incredible to watch. So he's going up against Milwaukee. It's a tougher matchup, but Milwaukee does struggle more against lefties than they do against righties. Like when you go through that, Milwaukee lineup, it's a lot of left-handed bats. Excuse me. Oh dear, I don't know where that came from. A lot of left-handed bats, so they're going to have a tougher matchup against lefties in general. So Montgomery, I think he's a fine play at 8.4K. I wouldn't mind throwing him in GPPs at all. Probably want to be going with him in cash games. I'd kind of be sticking up here at the top or going with Joe Ryan in the cash games instead of Montgomery. But yeah, I don't think you can really go too wrong with either of these two guys in the mid tier. Below that, I got Gilbert, Kelly, and then Pivetta. Gilbert, where is he? Here he is. Going up against San Diego. So he's got the toughest matchup of the three, but back-to-back starts, 9 strikeouts, no earned runs. Yes, it was against Detroit. Yes, it was against the White Sox, like the two teams that we pick on with right-handed pitchers. But still, it shows that he's still in very good form. Sub 9K. Tough matchup against San Diego, but again, San Diego is another team that has shown that they have had they have had a lot of just dud games. Like you look at this lineup on paper, stud after stud, and then they get into the game and you're like, what happened? What happened? So I think Gilbert could be an intriguing play in this mid tier. After that, I don't even know who I put in there. Kelly and Pivetta. I just don't have really too much interest. Kelly going up against Kelly at 9K, and then Pivetta against the Yankees. It's more so the Yankees struggle, and they're just kind of in free fall mode. But it is still Pivetta. He can blow up at times. He allows a lot of home runs, and what can this Yankees team do? Hit a lot of home runs. Stanton and Judge, those are going to be your two guys that you're really going to be sticking out. But after them, I mean, there's so many guys, and they do have some cheap plays in there as well. It's not just you're jamming in the top guys like Stanton and Judge, Donaldson. Gleyber Torres is sub 4K. You can easily fit him in there. Cabrera's 2.9. Even whatever catcher they go out there, I think Gashioka catches Cole, so 2.1K. I mean, he's capable of hitting a home run. So that's kind of why I have the Yankees kind of near towards the top tier. There's not a whole lot of bats that I like today in terms of teams. So it's kind of like Minnesota, great. And then just a lot of yeah, not super excited. I know we don't have a lot of great pitchers at all. We don't have a lot of great pitchers at all. But when you're paying up for Cole and you're paying up for DeGrom, it's really tough to jam in a team like the Dodgers, jam in a team like St. Louis, and so forth. So I also just realized that I do not have Toronto on this stack list. Going up against Tampa Bay, it is the second game of a doubleheader. I don't know who. It's still to be determined who the pitchers are in that second game, according to MLB.com and the MLB app. But yeah, I just noticed I don't have Toronto on there. So yeah, but going back to the pitchers, Kelly Pivetta, Yankees up there. Cheap tier, Waldichuk, he's really the one guy that kind of stands out. Waldichuk has a solid strikeout rate. He's going up against Texas, who can strike out quite a bit. 6.2K could be a fine fun play if you if you don't want to double pay up at pitcher. I think Waldichuk's where you're going to go down here. After Waldichuk, Kramer, possibly. He's honestly not been as bad as he was expected to be this season or in years past. So I got to give him credit. Got to give him credit where credit's due. But still, 7.3K. I think it's just a little bit too pricey. He was 8.4 against Toronto. Jeez. 7.3 is a little pricey, but he's going up against Washington. Washington doesn't strike out a whole ton, but Kramer just doesn't strike out a whole lot of guys in general on his own. He just kind of goes about limiting hard contact. That's kind of like his thing. You can see he doesn't allow really home runs at all. Just allows minimal contact. Doesn't really walk out a whole lot of guys. Doesn't strike out Just kind of hoping that he gets by. Maybe BABIP's on his side, 7.3K, and a nice matchup against Washington. He could do just fine. Kopech, he just continues to annoy me because this was like a top prospect. He was so good, and his strikeout rate was so good. And I don't know what went on. I mean, we saw a flash of it against Detroit with 11 strikeouts. But man, he's just really struggled so far this season. He's got Colorado outside of Coors. They struggle quite a bit more. So I think Kopech could be viable, especially in like if you're making like 20 lineups. But yeah, after that, everybody else not really too much interest in terms of pitching. So let's go to the bats. I kind of already talked about how it's pretty ugly, and Minnesota's like the team that opens everything up, especially if you want to go DeGrom and Cole. Josh Jung, if you want to talk about him real quick, he's going up against Waldichuk. He's like a top prospect. He's min price. He's got a great matchup here. He's been torching the MLB in his first 5 games as a hitter. He does strike out quite a bit. Excuse me. He does strike out quite a bit, but he is going up against Waldichuk, who is a strikeout pitcher. So there is a little concern there. However, I think he's going to be just fine. 2K, he really opens things up in your lineup. Minnesota, they're the team that opens everything up salary-wise. So let's go over to Minnesota. They got a lot of injuries, as we kind of already know. Correa, 4.9. Pricey. Let's throw him in there. Why not? Arias, Miranda. They're the same position eligibility. I'm assuming Miranda's going to be in with that righty-lefty matchup. Arias would be lefty-lefty, but still, Arias is the next most expensive guy after Correa at 3.4. Super, super affordable. So I wouldn't mind this kind of being a start for you, especially in cash. Going to DeGrom and Cole, and then Correa, who is going to be in for a great spot. Miranda, who can get some power at 3.1, and then a top prospect in a nice matchups who's still min price. 3.4K remaining for the remainder of your bats. So it is a little bit, a little dicey. We'll say it there, but you can certainly fit guys in. I mean, just because everybody else for Minnesota is super dirt cheap. Yankees, I already talked about them going up against Pivetta. I'm really searching for some like home run upside. This is risky. I know it is risky. I don't want to say that they're like the top tier, but they have a high implied run total. They're going up against a pitcher that can allow a lot of home runs, a small ballpark like Fenway. Like maybe the Yankees can finally figure it out here. And it's kind of why I'm putting them up near the top. We already talked about the Yankees do have a couple of cheap guys that you could be turning towards. Gleyber Torres at 3.9K, maybe throw him in there. You go cheap at catcher, and then you're looking at, the remainder of your outfields. You're looking at probably around 3.6, 3.7K remaining for the rest of your bats. So I do kind of like the Yankees going up against Pivetta here. If you want to go a little bit cheaper, Baltimore, Texas. I think those are the two that really stand out behind the Yankees. And they're much more affordable than the Yankees. So I do want to put Baltimore up at the top or Texas at the top. I don't know. I could have put Texas or the Orioles as like a top stack on an 11-game slate. It just seems so wrong. But still, Baltimore and Texas, they both have some very affordable guys that you could be targeting. I know I mentioned Waldichuk is, a solid strikeout pitcher, but he can struggle at times. And Texas is just very affordable once you get past like kind of the top guys here. So once you hit after these top 4, you're down in the 2K range and below. Already talked about Josh Jung and his value that he can bring. Baltimore on the other side, very similar. They got their top guys with Freshman, Mullins, and Stanton there. But after that, very affordable, very cheap. Gunnar Henderson, just fun prospect, fun guy coming up into the league. Can't wait to be talking about him for years to come. 3.4K. He's affordable, and just kind of everybody else. McKenna, yeah, all that. St. Louis, they got a couple cheap bats, but not super jazzed about them. Going to be sticking up here towards the top with these guys. Going into the GPP category, the Mets. Let me pull them up. Mets going up against Sampson and Chicago. The Mets do struggle a little bit more against right-handed pitching. So it is they smash right-handed pitching. That's what I'm trying to say. They smash right-handed pitching, but they're just very expensive. So I don't expect much ownership against them or on them just because they are so expensive. But Lindor, switch hitter. So you can go lefty, Nimmo, lefty, Vogelbach. I mean, just going down the list. They're expensive, but I really like them. They're a top offense in the league. They are the best team in the league against right-handed pitching, just with how their lineup shakes out. So I do love them as the top GPP play. Seattle going up against Darvish. I already talked about how Darvish can really struggle at times, and he has some blow-up potential, especially early on in the games. So Seattle can jump on him early. Maybe they pull him early. And yeah, let who knows? I don't know. I'm so tired. My daughter was up. She's 2 years old. But she was up all night. So I'm really struggling to get through this video. But I do like Seattle as kind of GPP. Chicago White Sox kind of the same. It's Chad Cool they're going up against. It's not a tough pitcher, but it's a right-handed pitcher, so they could struggle. But still, it's Chad Cool. The White Sox, they need to get this offense going. And they've looked so much better since Tony La Russa had to go on leave there for a little bit. Hope he's all right. But still, White Sox going up against Cool. I think that this offense can certainly break out. So maybe even I want to put Chicago White Sox here and then Seattle down a little bit lower. And then I kind of already talked about the cheap tier. I'm kind of babbling on, I think, at this point. So this is kind of where I'm at. The bats are really muddied, in my opinion. I think it's Minnesota just stands out as like the cream of the crop. And then tier 2 would be like the Yankees, Baltimore, Texas. And then tier 3 could be like, the Mets and the White Sox, and then just kind of like leftover scraps throughout. So that kind of covers everything. Hopefully this was helpful for you. Hopefully I didn't just babble on too long. Kind of guide you in the right direction. So as always, thanks for watching. Good luck in your contest, and we'll see you in the next video.